Today's video was sponsored by Storyblocks Video.
Now, if I went ahead and called this $2,000 lens cheap, that might trigger some people because it's $2,000 bloody dollars. But if you've properly considered a super telephoto lens for something like birding or wildlife photography, fact is, something that goes up to 600 mils for $2,000 is on the cheaper side of things. Do you see something? This is a 200 to 600 millimeter zoom lens. This starts off where the 70 to 200 ends. So incredible reach for anything from medium to long range. And we've brought it all the way out here to Pasir Penambang in Kuala Selangor with the Sony A9 Mark II to hopefully get some pictures of birds and eagles and hopefully even bigger birds. This is an A9 Mark II, so it should get the job done. So let's get shooting.
So we had to get on a boat because it was a short eagle feeding cruise. That meant two things. One, it was almost guaranteed that there were going to be a lot of eagles, and two, I would have to shoot up to 600mm handheld out of a moving boat. To add to the drama, it was actually my first time ever photographing birds, and it was certainly way trickier than I ever imagined it to be. Now, I was glad that I was on a zoom. That meant that I could look for the bird I want in my frame using the wider end at 200mm, then hone in on it to 600mm to get a tighter shot of it. And because we were shooting full frame, so even at 600mm and being pretty close to the birds, it was still quite difficult to get a shot of the birds that filled the frame. The A9 Mark II's 24.2 megapixel sensor is adequate, but it doesn't really give you that much room to crop in on compared to something like the A7R III that we shot this episode on. But being a complete noob when it comes to bird photography, I went for the camera with better speed and tracking, especially considering how difficult it is to frame up on a bird mid-flight. But luckily for everyone, there's always the option of simply downloading stock footage of birds from Storyblocks Video if you ever find yourself in need of any, instead of having to painstakingly film them yourself. They even have footage of birds against green screens to add birds to your own footage. It's actually super easy to look for clips, and I am subscribed to their unlimited video plan, meaning I get unlimited downloads of anything in the video member library, and I'm free to use them anywhere I like, including here on YouTube. It's priced quite affordably, and the clips on there are high quality, plus the subscription even includes some motion graphic templates that I personally use here on the channel, so check out the link in the description to learn more about Storyblocks Video.
So this isn't a G Master lens. It doesn't have the brightest maximum aperture. It's an f/6 to 6.3, but that is certainly made up for with an amazing optical image stabilizer. So crucial when shooting at extremely long focal lengths like this, especially more so if you are going handheld.
Now, as expected and very much needed on a super telephoto, the autofocus is fast. It's certainly keeping up to being driven by the A9 Mark II's incredible AF tracking, and the images out of it, considering that this is a super tele zoom instead of a prime, the image quality is not bad. Like, I wouldn't say it's insanely detailed in terms of resolving power, but I wouldn't call it soft by any means. One thing about this lens though, the bokeh is rough. Quite rough. You see, packing such an impressive range of focal lengths into a form factor like this does come with its trade-offs in the form of optical performance and also maximum aperture, so I suppose this really is more of a zoom geared towards convenience and versatility. It is on the bigger and heavier side of lenses, but at least you can still fit it in a camera bag. I also think it's just small enough for you to not mind taking it out with you instead of saving it.
Now, I know an f/6 to 6.3 in a zoom lens like this is not particularly impressive, but think of it this way. You are going from 200mm to 600mm, you are tripling your focal length, and you are only losing a third of a stop of light in the process. And just to give you an idea of how incredible the range on this thing is, here's 200mm zooming in to 600mm. And not to mention, for something that reaches up to 600mm, this is relatively compact, but it's by no means a lightweight lens though. This is 2.1 kilos and it's certainly quite heavy. So it is gonna be a bit of a workout if you did not bring a monopod. And just for comparison's sake, I'm gonna put this $2,000 lens up against one of Sony's most dominance establishing lenses, the 600mm f4 G Master that costs $13,000 US.
Alright, let's do this. Okay, riskiest lens change I've ever done. So what does an $11,000 price difference look like in terms of final image output? On the G Master's f4, we are getting a fair lot more bokeh, much smoother as well, and punching in we can most definitely notice the superior optics on the G Master, which is doing a much better job at resolving fine details like the fabric on this handsome bloke's hat. Again, we are looking at images from two lenses that have a price difference greater than sixfold, so I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments if you think it justifies the difference.
So if a $2,000 lens is not exciting enough for you and you prefer to get a load of that $13,000 G Master lens, then you should probably check out these videos over here, one of which is Jace from Lens Library shooting portraits at 600mm handheld.